if SafeMoon had come to their followers and said, hey guys, we're going to be selling off millions of tokens. We're going to try to do it without affecting price, but we're basically going to be raising tons of operating capital in order to create all these crazy new endeavors or whatever. That would be one thing. The problem is they didn't say that. They didn't pitch that. And well after they were the most famous and high priced as they ever were, they changed their entire operation, right? What they pitched to investors was very different than, hey, we're going to be secretly selling off into this market making cash out wallet. Whether or not you want to say, oh, it doesn't affect price this way or that way, this is literally not the thesis of the company. So a lot of people have been saying fraud is because the thesis of the company was one thing. They come and take a ton of operating capital, and then John Caroni pockets a lot of it. No matter how you get there, if people didn't invest based on that idea of this is what we're doing, I think that's fraud. If you say we're locking these funds up and they're not locked up, and then you go spend them somewhere or you go make money somewhere, no matter how you want to justify it, oh, it's operating capital, it doesn't matter. That isn't what you brought people on to invest for. It makes sense of why I think a lot of us are we're not trying to come in with a negative bias on what this cash out operation is. I think we're coming in just with an expectation of what they kind of set the expectations at, if that makes sense.
It's not just the thesis of the company that they outlined. It's the thesis of DeFi that everybody has taken and run with, that this is all about decentralized control over your own assets and not having to rely on the efforts of one group of folks. So it's about a world where we don't have to plow millions and millions of dollars into half-baked ideas. It's about a place where we can pool together assets of value like BNB, Ethereum, Phantom, Avalanche, Polygon, whatever, and then do the community work of building that group so we can talk about the reasons decentralization is important to us, not about advancing all these vague ideas about evolutionizing the world and changing everything with talents that are still unspoken. So the entire DeFi space has kind of hijacked this Satoshi-style language while creating entities that are violently centralized and exist to take money out of their holders' hands.
Yeah, and I'm not going to refute any of that. Actually, I think all of your points are pretty accurate as a whole. And what I'm trying to do here is shine light on something, not defend it. I'll say that in the interest of balance, for every up, there's going to be a down here. So the same thing is true if someone sells a massive amount on a centralized exchange. That order book price is going to be maintained based off of your pancake swap value. If anything, it's just taking money out of the exchange itself and putting it into control of people, or maybe some good company, maybe some bad company.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and that's all it is. And it's not robbing Peter to pay Paul. There is no, because that price is going to be maintained regardless. It's just where the money ends up going, right? If somebody buys $50,000 of my token, it doesn't matter if I sell an equivalent 50 or not. It's still going to remain at the same price on that centralized exchange because we have to peg it to the uncontrollable.
Well,
but centralized.
No, that's not correct, because you're taking away other legitimate buy orders. If there was a person who legitimately wanted to buy tokens, you've now taken away that $1,000 from them. So you're destroying the demand from legitimate buyers to take money away from them, which will eventually impact the price because other people will then arbitrage the price difference between PancakeSwap and the SEX.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing point. And I just actually also wanted to ask you, Docs, is if you don't take the profit, then Bitmart would get the profit. And if that was true, why would Bitmart be willing to give away that $15 million?
So it's not Bitmart's profit. They have to maintain liquidity so that if a bunch of people exit their platform, right, they have liquidity to allow people to continue to exit on the platform. That's what it is. It's actually can be truly described as exit liquidity. People who take their money and move it to another exchange, they actually have to move the cash. Until you move something off of an exchange, it's all the same liquidity pool. No matter what token you have, no matter if it's USDT, it goes back to not your keys, not your tokens. And that's the same thing with your cash. If it's not in your bank account, it's not your cash. It's the exchange's cash, whether it's in USDT or USD. All that is in the same liquidity pool. So, I mean, these are market makers that, Yusuf even said they chose themselves. They had to pass a test to be Bitmart's market makers. That's really the best explanation I can give for you. And looking back, centralized exchanges, they're a secondary market for a DeFi product. That's it. And we did it to gain exposure, just like most tokens do. But that's what it is. You're creating a secondary market in which no one who utilizes that market can actually utilize the token itself, which is how it's designed. But SafeMoon also didn't have a product at the time either, and I don't think has a product that supports their token right now.
I just wanted to say real quick that it sounds like, and I don't understand this either, but it sounds like we're describing arbitrage. That it's like, oh, we have to keep the SEX price the same as the DEX, so we're going to arbitrage our own price on the SEX. And it seems like we're trying to say that there is no way that this has a negative impact on anybody, but it's also at the same time able to produce $15 million. And I think that just, it seems like as if we wouldn't have done those market maker things, that the investors would have naturally done that, and that would have had a better effect on the liquidity pool in the long run.
I don't think my argument is that it doesn't have a negative effect on anybody. I'm saying if their goal was to pull money out, this would have the least negative impact of what their options were, to my understanding of the situation. If this is where all the money came from, like people are saying, then this would be the least unethical thing I've heard about SafeMoon in a very long time, to be quite frank. Not to say whether or not it's ethical. I'm saying that disparate impact to your holders should always be your number one priority, right? Like if I sell, is this going to disparately impact everybody who owns my token on an exchange, on a decentralized exchange, wherever it may be? Then that's probably the worst decision you can make. So if you need the money to build all the things that you promise people and that you probably shouldn't have promised people because you weren't equipped to do it, then this would be the least unethical way to do it. Not to say that it's ethical and not to say that it's morally right.
It's the best way to do something you shouldn't do, basically. That's what you're saying.
Well, you could put a sell wall up on a centralized exchange and people try to break through it. And yeah, you can say you're not negatively impacting the price. You're not dumping on the holders, but you're restricting the price growth and you're pocketing the difference. And so that's just something that, again, I'm not even talking about SafeMoon here. Right, you're siphoning demand, and so that's something that I would just have a concern about, just in general, from a philosophical standpoint. Right, is that that's not negatively impacting the price. You are negatively impacting the price because you're not allowing it to grow to where it could be.
Yeah, and there's really only one way around that, and that's either to have a market maker that does control PancakeSwap as well, so that as you get assets off of the exchange, you use it to enhance your liquidity pool in a decentralized capacity, because then all of those buys actually matter. And that's the only time and only way to make all of these buys actually matter. Other than that, someone's always losing money.
Well, here's my argument on it, right? You have different decentralized liquidity pools, and you have bots that are running back and forth doing arbitrage. And that's normal. You have a global liquidity. That's how it works. And so the real way to do this, in my opinion, right, I think the only argument is perhaps the spread, is that you just let natural arbitrage take its course, right? If PancakeSwap is a lot cheaper than what's on the exchange, then people will buy on PancakeSwap and they'll sell on the exchange, and that will just naturally bring the price down. So I just don't understand why, exchanges have to peg towards PancakeSwap, when in reality, just regular market arbitrage forces are going to affect the balance of what's being in the exchange, like any other. It just doesn't compute to me.
Yeah, and this is a saying in the stock market as well. It's that the only person making money on an exchange is the market maker. And it's true in crypto, it's true in the stock market, it's true everywhere else. They are going to make the most money. Whoever's doing the market making, whoever's getting the maker taker fees and tapering off of assets is going to be making more money than anybody else, always.